Mr. Speaker, I move that the House suspend the rules and pass the bill H.R. 3352, the Department of State Authorization Act of 2019 as amended.
The clerk will report the title of the bill.
H.R. 3352, a bill to provide for certain authorities of the Department of State and for other purposes.
Pursuant to the rule, the gentleman from New York, Mr. Engel, and the gentleman from Texas, Mr. McCall, will each control 20 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from New York.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that all members have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend their remarks and include extraneous material on H.R. 3352.
Without objection.
I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
Let me first of all thank our ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Committee, Mr. McCall of Texas, for working with me closely to bring this bipartisan piece of legislation forward. Mr. Speaker, one of our top priorities on the Foreign Affairs Committee is making sure that diplomacy is a pillar of American foreign policy. Diplomacy is the tool, Mr. Speaker, that we use around the world to diffuse crises, to prevent conflicts, to help build peace and stability and prosperity. We use diplomacy along with development to strengthen friendships and to bridge divides. We invest in these efforts because they help us project our values around the world. Support for democracy and human rights, our country's spirit of compassion and generosity. We invest in diplomacy and development because they enhance our security. Countries and regions that are more stable, governments that are more transparent and accountable mean that we have better partners on the world stage. They mean fewer places where conflict may erupt or extremism may take root. The violence we can forestall through diplomacy means one less place where we may need to put American service members in harm's way. So you'd think, Mr. Speaker, with all the tremendous dividends we see from diplomacy and development, that the Congress would make sure that our agencies and our personnel responsible for this work always have the support and resources they need. That we are working constantly to provide the tools needed to meet 21st century global challenges. That's why it's so amazing, Mr. Speaker, that the last time a State Department authorization was signed into law was the year 2002. Just think of all the issues we're grappling with around the world that we could not have envisioned 17 years ago. We're asking the State Department to counter terrorist propaganda on social media, but the last time Congress gave the State Department its legislative due was 2 years before Facebook was invented, right around the time the first smartphones were coming on the market. Let me be clear, our diplomats have done a great job dealing with the challenges America faces, and our inability to get a State Department authorization signed into law is not for lack of trying. The Foreign Affairs Committee and the House have passed a number of bills that just did not make it across the finish line. With the bill we're considering today, I hope we're starting a new trend. It contains a wealth of good provisions. I view it as an important start in breathing new life into the comprehensive, regular authorizing work Congress should do to support America's diplomacy and development efforts. It will help the Department recruit and retain a diverse workforce so that our diplomats, our face to the world, look like the country they're representing. It will enhance our embassy and information security to keep these dedicated public servants safe. It authorizes absolutely essential investments in embassy security, construction, and maintenance. It will help to streamline the department's management structure, strip out duplication, and cut away the dead wood of outdated reports. This will make sure the agency is flexible and nimble in a rapidly changing world. It will focus on smart planning and rigorous evaluation so we know we're being effective in our diplomatic efforts. And beyond what's in the bill, Mr. Speaker, I'm especially proud of what this bill stands for. I have tremendous respect for our colleagues on the Armed Services and Intelligence Committees, and I salute their work in regularly passing authorizing legislation for the agencies they oversee. If we're serious about diplomacy and development as critical parts of our foreign policy and essential to our national security, then there is absolutely no reason that a State Department authorization bill should not be part of Congress's regular work. Our committee has shown again and again that we can work together in a bipartisan way to advance our country's security. We pass a lot of legislation, often small fixes around the edges to get at a particular challenge. With an authorization bill, we're sending a stronger message to our diplomats. As you carry out your critical and often dangerous work, we're going to have your backs. So I'm pleased that we're advancing this bill today, and I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Texas is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.